First thing that you're gonna need are the strings, obviously. I recommend the 9-42s. I might use Ernie Ball, not much to say, they're good strings. I also use the wire cutters. And then I would say a microfiber cloth, but I don't have one right now, unfortunately. So I just use this old rag that my grandma gave me. This is for the really dirty part of the guitar. And then afterwards, once I get all the dirt and grime off it, then I use this Ernie Ball polishing rag, I guess you could call it. And then some fretboard conditioner. I put this on the neck. Frankly, I actually use it every time. You're not supposed to, only about maybe 4 to 6 months. But I live in a really cold and dry climate, so I put a little bit on the neck each time. Some guitar polish as well. Doesn't really matter which kind you use, but I prefer the Gibson brand, just because I like the brand. Another thing that I would recommend, I don't personally have one, but it's like an automatic string winder. You can get them from Ernie Ball, and it's like a battery powered string winder that does it like really fast, like, and it does it in a couple seconds. I have one in my shopping cart, but I don't have one yet. But that's a really cool tool that you can get that will make restringing the guitar much faster. I'm gonna set this up now. I'm gonna get my towel and like lay it out on the desk, just like this, and I set it underneath the headstock like that. And I find that's enough. You don't need to get too fancy with that. But yeah, so the first thing that I usually do is I take my wire cutters. I actually detune the guitar just like this, just because I don't like cutting strings when they're still tight. Something about that just doesn't seem right to me. So I loosen the strings just like so, and then I take the strings, the string cutter at about like near the pickups, and I cut it. There we go. So now all the strings are unfastened. I'm gonna pull it out of the bridge. I'm gonna pull it out of the bridge just like that. And boy, is this guitar filthy. Holy cow. This thing needs new strings badly. New strings, new everything. Needs to be cleaned up, needs to be polished, needs new strings, needs new everything, man. Needs some love and needs some TLC, needs some affection. And this is actually where I use the pliers, by the way, because I find I don't want to prick my fingers on the strings that are sticking out of the tuning pegs. Also, I find it's useful to cut the loose strings in half like that. That way you can put them in the garbage easier, because otherwise they're sticking out of the garbage can and it's just a real mess. Grab both ends, cut, there you go. Again, we're gonna cut it in half, twist it like this. My hands are gonna be so dirty. It's not even a bad idea to have a wet nap. If you don't change your strings a lot or enough, you'll find that when you take your strings off and you're done, like your hands will just be filthy. It depends on how much you play though. Like if you're like me and you play an hour or two a day, then it's they get pretty dirty, you know? Anyway, you know what? There's something therapeutic about changing the guitar strings and setting it up. I'm not the best luthier. It's a skill I definitely want to get into for sure, but I'm not like the best at it, you know? Whenever I do it, I find myself enjoying it quite a lot. It's a lot like meditation. Just put on a movie in the background. We're gonna give this guitar a nice cleaning now, and we're gonna do that with the polish and the rags that I talked about earlier. So what I like to do is something I talked about in Traveling Guitarist on my site. I either like to spray the rag, or I spray it about a foot away from the guitar, because you know, there's just something about spraying directly on the guitar, close to the guitar, that kind of creeps me out. I'm not a big fan of doing that, so I generally try to avoid that. But yeah, I go like that, pretty far away from it. In fact, this is running out of juice, so it's coming out not really like spray, it's coming out like a squirt bottle, and I don't really like that. So we're just gonna put it directly on the rag, like so. And this is the part where I press pretty hard on the fretboard. It gets very grimy. I wash the frets nice and good, and you know, getting all that gunk off the fretboard is a nice feeling. Really putting some elbow grease into that, dude. Some pressure on that. And this is where the desk light comes in handy, because you can bring your extendable desk light down just like this, and you can point it at the fretboard like that, and you can get really, you know, have a look at it with some extra light just to see how dirty it really is. Get some extra light happening here. I think I am gonna spray directly on the neck because it's pretty grimy. So let's clean the body now. So we're gonna wipe this down nice and good. We're also gonna clean the bridge and the saddle. The bridge is really, really dirty. Now I usually take these right off like that, and you can see how filthy this saddle is. It needs to be cleaned really badly. And I also use Q-tips if I really need to get into the hard to reach areas. I use some Q-tips to get in there much closer. Okay, we're gonna get the Q-tip now in a second. First I'm gonna clean this headstock though, because it's pretty dirty too. I'm gonna clean the tuning pegs as well. Spray the rag again. And I'll give you a quick tip. Take your rag, or take your fingers, turn the tuning pegs until all of them are perpendicular to each other, or in line with each other, I guess is a better way of putting it. This is gonna make putting the strings in later much easier. You can see the way the holes are lined up with each other like that. So I'm gonna take the Q-tip, and I'm gonna use it to get into this hard to reach place, especially behind the pickup box at the end. If you have some canned air, that's another good thing to use as well. In fact, that's usually what I use on the saddle. So here I got the canned air. Make sure you don't shake the canned air. It's not meant to be shaken. Maybe even spray that in the jack. Take it on the saddles too. I just ran out. But yeah, the canned air works really well for the saddles. It really gets that dust out of there. In fact, it's one of the only things I use. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean this really good too, because it's filthy. I'm gonna spray it directly with the polish. I'm gonna really wipe it down. There we go, it's looking quite a bit better now. So now what we're gonna do, so we're actually gonna take the guitar and we're gonna flip it over, just like that. So we're gonna spray the body, we're gonna wipe that down, and then we're gonna spray the rest of it as well. I usually try to wipe it down right away. And the reason for that is because I don't want the polish to sit on the guitar for too long. Not for any particular reason, but it just doesn't feel right to me to let it sit. So I wipe it off immediately. Now we're gonna wipe the neck down too, as well as the headstock. There we go. I'm gonna do the top of the guitar again as well. And we're gonna do the sides. We're gonna do that by spraying the rag down, just giving it a quick once over. The guitar is almost clean. We're gonna give it a once over with the proper rag. We're just gonna wipe it down everywhere good. And now we're gonna take the fretboard conditioner, just like this, and we're actually gonna just dab it. We're gonna dab the rag like that, and then we're just gonna rub it on the fretboard. We're gonna rub it on the fretboard like that. Usually don't need to use a lot, but it also depends on how dry your neck is. There, so now the guitar is officially clean, and we're gonna put some strings on it and get it ready to go. I usually start with the biggest one first. I throw the garbage in the garbage immediately, because otherwise there's just string packaging everywhere. Get your bridge and your saddle on. I'm gonna stick it in here. Remember that your screws face towards the pickup. Gonna run it through just like that up into the headstock. And then an important part next is actually, this is very important. So you pull it back like this and you make it so there's some slack. I usually use my hand like that and I pull it back like that. That way there's about this much slack. And then I hold down on the nut just like this. I start turning. Now remember that the strings you should turn so the string is on the inside of the headstock. So it should go like this. I usually hold it pretty tight when I'm getting it around like that. I put it over like this, and I keep turning it, push it down a little bit, keep turning, and I try and keep it on the bottom. Try to keep the string on the bottom of the wind. So now we're gonna get the snark on there, and this is where the snark comes in handy because we're gonna go to E right now, because why not, right? You might as well go to the proper tuning. So now you're gonna take your wire cutters just like this. You're gonna twist the string first like this, so it's not obtrusive, and there you go. So now on to the next string. So now we're gonna use the 32 on the next one. Again, so you're gonna put it at the bottom of the bridge, put it through just like so, and then you're gonna put it through the hole in the headstock. Then you're just gonna repeat the same process. Except this time we're gonna try and give it even more slack because we want it to wrap around more than once or more than twice. So again, we're gonna hold the string just like here, make sure there's a fair amount of slack like this, and then we're gonna start turning. There you go, so we're gonna put the string on the bottom. We're gonna hold it real tight. That's how I like to do it anyway. Hold it real tight while you're winding it. Keep the string on the bottom of the wind, and then just keep going until you get hopefully 3 times around. 3 times wound is usually the best way to go. But I believe it was B.B. King, for example, who would wrap it around a bunch of different times. I could be wrong, I don't remember which player that it was. There we go, now we're gonna turn the snark on again. We're gonna get to an A. So now we're gonna cut it again, just like we did before. We're gonna twist it a bit so it's not obtrusive, like I said, and we're gonna cut it real close. There we go. I'm a lot more happy with that winding job. So as you can see how it's winded around about, 3 times. So that's a perfect wind. So now let's get the 3rd string in there. Using a string winder, by the way, is a great idea. I have never gotten around to getting one of those. You can even get electric ones, make it way faster. There we go, so really the same principle. You wanna keep your strings on the inside of the headstock. Again, give it plenty of slack, like you can see here with my hand. Make sure your hand can fit underneath it and pull the string up a little bit more. Hold down on the nut with your finger, like so. And then you're gonna twist. You're gonna twist the same way. And by same way, I mean you're gonna twist in such a way where the string is on the inside of the headstock. That's how you're gonna twist. So same thing, we're gonna give it a ton of slack. This is even more important on the lighter gauge strings because you want it to wrap around at least 3 or 4 times. Sometimes it's helpful to actually wrap it around and like pull a kink in it. And there you go, you got the string on. Now we got a freshly stringed Epiphone Les Paul. So while we're at it, we're just gonna tune it up quick. And then in the next video, I'll show you how to set it up properly. Wow, it sounds so much better. Oh yeah, I'm excited to play this thing. It's gonna feel a lot better.